Hello everybody, it's me Nate, aka Devil Dog, and I'm back with another review. This time I'm doing a movie review of the up-and-coming released Final Destination Bloodlines. This movie will release on May 16th, 2025. I actually got to see it a couple days early. I'll actually be going to see it again tomorrow night with my friend Derek, so he can actually see what this is like. This movie was directed by Zach Lipovsky and had a budget of $40 million for this one, so it has a rather large budget, which is good. And it is the sixth movie in the Final Destination cinematic universe. I like to say that, cinematic universe. But this is actually kind of sort of considered a reboot / sequel to the other movies, and I'll explain why in a little bit about that. The other thing that was weird about this is they filmed this movie in IMAX. So if you actually love these movies, these Final Destination movies, I highly recommend you go see it in IMAX. I did not get to see it in IMAX, but I have seen movies in IMAX before, and it totally makes it well worth it for that extra sticker shock price. But seriously, it was filmed for IMAX. Who knew, right? Now, the other main thing about this particular movie is this is the final movie that Tony Todd was in before he passed away. Everybody knows who Tony Todd was. He was in tons of different movies and shows, but more likely, I think you know him as Bloodworth, I think his name is, in the Final Destination series, and also Candyman. He actually played Candyman. So, he was a fantastic actor, and, God rest in peace on that gentleman. This is considered kind of a swan song movie for him, and I'll explain why in that. Because you got to think, Tony Todd passed away, I think it was November 6th of 2024, and this movie finished wrapping on November 15th. 2024. So he had passed away before they even finished filming the rest of the movie and wrapping it. All his scenes were filmed before, but since he was dying from cancer, they wanted to do a lot of little extra stuff to have him actually do something, which I'll talk about at the end. Now, the other thing that's weird, if you think about this has been 14 years since the last Final Destination movie, and since then it's been over 25 years since the first Final Destination movie. Honestly, hands down, this is weird. Now, honestly, what can I say about this movie? This is spoiler-free. I probably should have said that. I'm not going to ruin it. I can highly recommend you go see this movie. The Final Destination movies have always been this weird sort of Rube Goldburg style death thing, about death doing these really weird fucking domino effect things to kill people. And the overall plot is basically about this one lady that was naturally much like the other movies in this series, has a premonition that her up on this tower that shit's going to happen and everyone's going to die. So she saves a lot of people's lives, and she lives most of her life for a good amount of time, and saves a lot of people that should not have survived. And we all know in these movies, you can run, but you can't hide from death. They're always going to catch up with you. And basically, she's got this book that she gives these other people that has all these drawings and nice callbacks to a lot of the original movies. So, and hands down, I thought that was like really, really cool what they did with that. The plot, though, is your basic plot. Premonition lady is able to escape off death to where she lives, and all these other people survive, and they have kids of their own, which they're not supposed to because they never supposed to exist. So basically, death has to wipe out the bloodline. Wink, wink. That's where they get the name from. But like I said, this movie has some really cool setups with it. I'll tell you some pros and cons with it. But as you go through, it's a little bit slower than I think it should be, but it fits all the right notes. It has a grand opening with that, the elevator, that tower that they're on. It plays with a lot of people's fears, like most of the other Final Destination movies have, and does it very, very well. It really does. Honestly, the overall plot is... they didn't really dive deeper into the lore. I wish they kind of would have dove deeper into the lore. I mean, there's mention of the book that the grandma lady kept to help avoid, being caught by death, that tells you all certain things to watch out for, which was pretty much all the ways that the people from the original movies died in, which was cool. And of course, Tony Todd reprising his role is honestly, the way they film it is so heartwarming and sad, because I grew up watching this actor, and he has been phenomenal in his movies, and they gave gave him the chance to pretty much, when they filmed him, he's looking right into the camera. And when he's talking to these characters, it actually kind of feels like he's saying a goodbye to all the people that go to the movies, which I thought was very well done. I thought that was great. Now, the one thing I'm not really a big fan of is I think this seems to actually have a lot more comedy in it than it should have. All these wacky, over-the-top ways that these people actually die in it are very, very, interconnected. Rube Goldberg, things that you wouldn't expect. You think, okay, that's going to kill him, but no. You think that's going to kill him, but no. Much like every other Final Destination movie, they do a really good job in this with some very creative kills. And that brings me down to, before I actually say some other things, I definitely say go and see this movie. Go and see this movie. This is worth it. Honestly, but before I give my final rating of it, I got to give some pros and some cons of this movie. First up, the pros. I absolutely love the story in this. The acting ain't that good, but honestly, the story in it, just these massive Rube Goldberg death sequences that all link together are superbly done. And honestly, it's one of the best parts of the Final Destination series. And this one is way better than the last couple. I don't think it's quite as good as the second one. I still think the second one was the best in my personal opinion. But honestly, the death sequences in this are very, very well done and severely over the top. Honestly, the other big thing to this is a very heartfelt speech from Tony Todd when he's talking to these characters. It's honestly him saying goodbye to everybody in real life. And I don't know if they intended that, but poor Tony Todd was suffering through some really bad cancer at filming this. And like I said, he didn't live long after the filming they did for it. And I thought it was a touching, good way and to send someone off who's a great actor and honestly was one of the best characters in the Final Destination series. I think he was only missing like one or two of the movies. He's been in just about every single one in one way or another. Now, like I said, the unique setup of the deaths is fantastic. The opening is fantastic. I love that. And as it goes through, you know what's going to happen, and it is very entertaining, and I loved it. But I got to get on some cons here. There is some issues I have with this. I am a huge fan of practical effects. And nowadays, you can do practical effects way easier than CGI, but it takes more effort physically, I guess. I don't know. But a lot of the kills in this did have some practical, but it looked like it was mostly all CGI effects, which I could tell. And I don't like that. I like practical. I can understand if you add a little flair, digital flair to something that's physical, but most of these kills are highly CGI, and I was kind of disappointed by that. And with today's standards, I was hoping for some a little bit more, practical effects, and they have some, but I hate to say it, the Until Dawn movie has better practical effects. This one has way grander, better effects overall, but not practical. It's a combination of the two, but it's not a bad thing. It works. I was just disappointed by it. Honestly, the story is rather campy. It leads a lot more towards comedy, which I'm not really a big fan of. The other ones had comedy too, but not as much. This one, I don't know if it was trying to be funny, but there were so many scenes that I honestly was like, oh my god, and then I was laughing afterwards. Like the grandma, I'm sorry, she's over the top and corny, and I think they're doing that on purpose, but yeah, she's severely over the top. And that, honestly, I'm like, okay, kind of didn't like that. And all the characters, there's a couple of them, like the two brothers are kind of cool, but none of the characters really have enough personality or are around long enough for me to really care about them. I mean, there's certain parts in between each kill that they drag out to show like more character development, but they don't really develop these characters to where I really don't care about really any of them. It's almost like just feed them to the grinder. And I kind of wish they would have done a little bit better with the character development in this. But once again, it's a Final Destination movie. You're just putting stupid people in ways to get them, brutally murdered. Honestly, like I said, this is a lot slower pace than the other Final Destination movies. And it's not a 2-hour-long movie. I mean, it's fairly long. I think it's 1 hour, 10 minutes, something like that. But, so it's close to that 2-hour mark, but not quite there. And I think they could have trimmed out quite a bit and not drag on, because there's so many parts in between these really epically badass kills that kind of drag on. And I understand why they were doing it, to help with the pace and also character development. but I just didn't really care for these characters to where I kind of would have preferred if they would have cut more of that out. They could have, honestly. I do like how they have some connections to all the original movies, but it's rather minorly done. They don't really have, like I said, they don't really add much to the mythos or the backstory of the Final Destination series. But this, had a little slight twist, and they actually say this is kind of a reboot slash sequel, and I get what they were going for. It still has the heart and charm of the original series, but it has enough unique new moments in it that I can see that it stands out on its own. And honestly, with a knockout last time performance of Tony Todd, God bless his soul, honestly, I think this was a charming and love letter to him and all of his fans. But the movie on its own stands on its own and is actually a very good movie. I really think it was better than the last one. I think it was better than most. I still think number 2 was my favorite. But in the end, can I actually recommend this movie? Yes, I can. And for this movie, I'm actually going to give a rating from 1 to 10. And I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. And the reason why is characters I really don't care about their development. They're just there to get thrown into the meat grinder, so to say. But the characters I don't care about. The pacing was a little slow. They could have tightened it up a bit. And the other thing was the overabundance use of CGI instead of practical effects. That's what brought it down to an 8. But that's my own personal opinion, and I'm sure other people out there will agree or disagree. Hell, after, like right now, I think it's standing at a 92 or 93 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is an insanely high number. Honestly, I see this movie doing great and making its money back and making a profit. I think it's a fantastic way to send off a fantastic actor like Tony Todd. And I hope and wait for the future to see if they make more of these Final Destination movies, because in the end, it actually had all the stuff that made those movies great. It had the super cool kills that actually made you nervous and scared, trying to guess how it was going to happen. And Tony Todd reprising his role as Bloodworth, which in the end I would say, come on, man, we all know Tony Todd was a representation of death in this movie. But in the end, I can definitely say, if you go into this movie and if you're a fan of any of the other ones, I guarantee you will absolutely love this movie. This was Nate, aka Devil Dog, and I want to thank each and every one of you out there for watching this video. Please give me a thumbs up, like this video, subscribe to my channel, leave lots of comments below, and of course here at Devil Dog Gaming, we always end our videos by saying, have fun, play hard, and remember people, the devil is in the details. Peace out until next time.